0:30 local time. The U.S. aircraft carrier pushes ahead at a steady pace. The engines are settled. The flight deck is quiet. It is a routine watch. No alarms, no heightened posture, just another transit entered into the ship's schedule minute by minute. Then at 0:42, a new symbol appears on the surface radar. A single contact. Long range, low speed, nothing unusual for these waters. Surface contacts appear and disappear all the time. Fishing vessels, commercial traffic, patrol craft moving in the distance. The contact is tagged and tracked. Nothing more. At 1:18, a second contact appears. A different bearing, the same general type of signal. Still far off. The watch officer gives the screen another look. Two contacts now, separated by miles of open water. Not yet on a converging course. No sudden increase in speed. Everything still falls within normal limits. At 2:05, a third contact appears. This one is closer, closing faster than the others. Not openly aggressive, just deliberate. Three contacts, three bearings, three separate tracks. Inside the Combat Information Center, the mood shifts. Not to panic, but to sharper attention. Tracks are numbered. Bearings are read aloud. Distances are called, then confirmed. No one raises their voice. By 2:40, a pattern begins to take shape. The three contacts are no longer moving independently. Each one adjusts course in small increments. 5 degrees here, 7 degrees there. Not enough to trigger alarms, but enough to matter. The CIC maps the geometry. The tracks are converging, not rushing, not charging, just closing in. At 3:10, the distance between the outer contacts and the carrier drops below the first advisory threshold. Still safe, still lawful, still quiet. On the bridge, nothing changes. The carrier holds course and speed. No evasive maneuver, no visible reaction. The deck crew continues working through routine procedures. At 3:30, the CIC confirms what the geometry has already begun to reveal. The three surface contacts are forming a loose triangle. Not a patrol line, not parallel tracking, but a shape. By 03:55, electronic support measures sharpen the picture. The emissions are faint, but consistent. Military-grade signatures, surface combatants, not civilian vessels. The contacts are reclassified. At 4:12, nationality is confirmed, Iranian Navy. No announcement echoes through the ship, no dramatic pause. The information is logged, repeated once for confirmation, and passed up the chain. 3 Iranian naval vessels, 3 vectors, 1 carrier. At 4:20, the carrier's closest point of approach projections are recalculated. The numbers tighten, the margins shrink. Still no immediate danger, but no longer a coincidence. The watch team requests permission to hail. Authorization is granted. At 4:28, the first radio call goes out. Clear, neutral, professional. No response. The radio stays silent. The carrier does not alter course. It does not speed up. It does not slow down. The ship continues forward exactly as it has for hours, as if nothing has changed. But inside the CIC, every screen now matters. By 4:30, the geometry is unmistakable. The 3 Iranian naval vessels are no longer simply approaching. They are positioning. Each holds a different range, a different bearing, a different angle, together shaping the space around the carrier. Not close enough to collide, not far enough to ignore. The sea remains calm, the sky remains clear. No weapons are visible, no fire control radar cuts through the air. Just 3 hulls, 3 vectors, and intent measured in degrees and minutes. This is no longer routine traffic. This is the moment when attention hardens into focus, when every second from here forward carries more weight than the one before it, and the box has only just begun to close. At 4:40, the geometry tightens again. All 3 Iranian vessels adjust speed within the same minute. Not a surge, not a sprint. Just enough throttle to remain aligned. The carrier's speed does not change. The distance begins closing faster than projected. Inside the Combat Information Center, updated vectors slide across the displays. Bearings are recalculated. Closest points of approach redraw themselves in real time. The triangle sharpens. At 4:45, the easternmost Iranian ship alters course 6 degrees to port. A small shift, easy to miss, but the effect is immediate. The open water on that side narrows. The formation now looks deliberate. By 5:05, the southern contact mirrors the move, 5 degrees to starboard. The third ship holds steady, anchoring the formation. This is no longer coincidence. At 5:30, the CPA drops below the advisory threshold. Still safe, still within legal limits, but moving in the wrong direction. The margin for error gets smaller with every passing minute. On the bridge, the carrier does not react. No helm order, no course correction. The ship's wake stays straight and unbroken. The message is silent but unmistakable. At 5:50, the CIC requests another recalculation. The numbers confirm it. If all three contacts maintain their present vectors, the carrier will be boxed in from three sides within minutes. Not trapped, but constrained. At 6:10, the first clearly deliberate reshaping move becomes impossible to miss. The Western Iranian vessel adjusts heading again, this time by less than 4 degrees. Subtle. Precise. The triangle compresses. The watch officer logs it. No alarms sound. No one calls out danger, but every set of eyes inside the CIC is now fixed on the same area of the screen. At 6:30, the first hail is transmitted. A calm voice, standard phrasing, no accusation. This is a United States Navy warship conducting lawful transit. You are approaching at close range. State your intentions. The carrier waits. Nothing comes back. At 6:55, the Iranian vessels maintain their course. They are not pulling away, and they are not rushing forward either. They simply hold their positions, applying steady pressure. The silence stretches. By 7:10, the triangle is no longer loose. Each ship now holds a clear role. One forward left, one forward right, one trailing slightly behind. The geometry limits maneuvering space without crossing any obvious red line, a careful form of pressure. At 7:40, electronic support systems detect a change. Iranian surface radars settle into sustained tracking modes. Not fire control systems, not targeting, but no longer passive either. They are observing closely. The CIC logs the shift. Time-stamped. Saved. At 8 o'clock, distance reports come more frequently now, every 30 seconds, each update tighter than the last. The stretch of sea between the ships visibly shrinks. Still, the carrier does not move. No aircraft launch, no guns turning, no visible posture changes on deck, only discipline. At 8:20, the formation is nearly complete. From above, it would appear precise. 3 gray hulls arranged to limit space without touching it. From the bridge, it feels different. The horizon is no longer empty. Steel silhouettes now occupy it on 3 separate bearings. At 8:40, the CIC quietly marks the moment. Box geometry established. The phrase is spoken once, calmly. Then the room returns to focused silence. At 8:50, the carrier's possible exit lanes are reviewed. All of them are narrow. All require careful coordination. None are impossible, but none are easy. At 9 o'clock, the formation holds steady. No sudden moves, no exposed weapons, no radio chatter, just pressure. Measured, sustained, deliberate. 3 Iranian naval vessels, 1 U.S. aircraft carrier, and a box that is now fully formed. The situation has crossed an invisible line, not into danger, but into inevitability. From this moment on, every action will be interpreted. Every second will matter more than the one before it. The tension does not spike, it settles, and that makes it heavier. At 9:20, the margins shrink further. Updated closest point of approach calculations fall below standard navigational comfort. Not a collision risk? Not yet. But close enough that every adjustment now carries consequences. The space between the steel hulls is no longer theoretical, it is visible. Distance calls now come every 15 seconds. Inside the Combat Information Center, no one leans back. Every console is active, every display synchronized. The room is quiet in the way only trained crews understand. No wasted motion, no unnecessary words. On the bridge, the carrier remains steady. No change in speed, no change in heading. The wake behind the ship continues in a straight line. At 9:25, the Iranian ships maintain exact spacing. Their movements are smooth, controlled, practiced. No one is rushing, no one is panicking. This is pressure applied slowly, deliberately, without escalation. At 9:50, the forward left Iranian vessel edges closer, meters now, not miles. The shift is small, but it changes the geometry again. The open water narrows further. Still, the carrier gives no visible response. At 10 o'clock, the formation reaches parallel alignment on 2 axes. One ship slightly ahead, one slightly behind, one offset to the side. The box is no longer just closing, it is holding. The carrier is constrained without being stopped. At 10:20, the second radio hail goes out. The same tone, the same calm neutrality. This is a United States Navy warship operating in international waters. Your maneuvering is unsafe. Acknowledge. The radio remains silent. No reply, no protest. No explanation. At 10:40, electronic emissions from the Iranian vessel stabilize once again. Still not fire control signals, still not targeting systems, but clearly intentional. The carrier's systems log everything. Frequencies, pulse patterns, timing. Data accumulates. At 11:05, the carrier's command team quietly reviews options. None are announced, none are visible. Every possible move is measured against the same principle. Do not escalate unless forced. So the carrier holds steady. At 11:30, the distance between the ships drops to clear visual proximity. Through optics, details on the Iranian decks become visible. Antennas, railings, crew silhouettes moving slowly and deliberately. No weapons are being handled, no decks are crowded, everything remains controlled. At 11:55, the tension reaches its highest point without a single sound. The carrier is surrounded by intent, not firepower. This is not a test of weapons, it is a test of discipline. At 12:10, the order is given quietly. Spin up the helo. Below deck, engines begin to turn. The sound builds slowly as the Seahawk systems come alive. Its blades remain folded. The helicopter does not launch, not yet. But the low mechanical hum carries across the deck, just enough to be noticed. The Iranian formation does not break. At 12:40, the geometry tightens one last time. The trailing Iranian ship edges forward, compressing the space behind the carrier. For a brief moment, all three ships occupy exactly the positions they have been shaping toward. This is the apex. At 1300, the carrier's path is mathematically constrained on three sides. Any sudden maneuver would demand an immediate response from everyone involved. The margin for error is now measured in seconds. Still, the carrier does not turn. At 1325, the Iranian ships hold their positions. No further adjustments, no increase in speed. The formation locks in place. Time stretches. This is the most delicate moment, not because of any imminent impact, but because of the restraint required under pressure. No one blinks. No one flinches. At 1350, the Seahawk's rotors begin spinning faster. The aircraft remains secured on deck, restrained but ready. The signal is subtle, yet unmistakable. Presence without provocation. At 1410, the Iranian ships hesitate, not visibly, but mathematically. Their spacing wavers by meters. Their synchronization slips by fractions of a second. Tiny deviations, almost impossible to see, but real. At 1430, the situation reaches peak tension. 3 warships, 1 carrier, no shots, no radio exchange, just steel hulls, precise geometry, and the passage of time. From here, something has to change. At 1438, the balance begins to shift. Nothing dramatic happens. No alarms, no sudden maneuvers, just a subtle change in rhythm. Small enough to miss unless you're watching closely. Inside the Combat Information Center, the spacing indicators refresh. One of the 3 Iranian ships is no longer perfectly aligned. The deviation is minimal, measured in meters, not ship lengths, but it breaks the symmetry. The box is no longer rigid. At 1445, the order is given. Launch the helo. The Seahawk lifts smoothly from the deck, rising just above the carrier's island before sliding forward into open air. It does not rush. It does not climb high. The helicopter levels out low over the water, rotors steady, silhouette unmistakable. This is not escalation. This is presence. At 15:05, the helicopter settles into a wide orbit, keeping a safe distance from all 3 Iranian vessels. Its sensors activate quietly. Cameras begin recording. Everything is documented. Time, position, bearing, no weapons are visible. At 1520, a brief, controlled laser marker appears on the surface of the water near the nearest Iranian ship. It flashes only for a moment. It does not linger. It does not threaten. It simply signals awareness. The message is precise. We see you. At 1540, the Iranian formation reacts, not all at once and not decisively. The eastern vessel holds its course. The southern ship adjusts slightly, avoiding the helicopter's flight path. The third ship, the one that had already slipped out of alignment, lags again. The delay is subtle, but it matters. At 1600, the Combat Information Center confirms it. The triangle is deforming. The carrier continues straight ahead, unchanged. The helicopter maintains its orbit. The pressure remains, but now it is uneven. At 1620, the misaligned Iranian vessel reduces speed by a small fraction. Not a retreat, just caution. The effect is immediate. Spacing between the ships widens along one side of the formation. A gap begins to open. At 1640, the 2 remaining Iranian ships attempt to compensate, adjusting course to preserve the shape. But their movements are no longer perfectly synchronized. Each correction creates another imbalance. the geometry weakens. At 1700, the helicopter shifts slightly, maintaining distance while remaining clearly visible. Its sensors stay locked on the formation. No radio calls are made, no warnings are issued. Silence does the work. At 1710, the gap widens enough to register clearly on the displays. For the first time since the encounter began, the carrier's projected maneuvering space expands. Not freedom, but room. At 1730, the Iranian ships hesitate again. One adjusts heading to maintain distance from the helicopter, another holds position to avoid moving too close to the carrier's bow. The box can no longer be sustained without increasing risk. At 1745, the helicopter makes one slow, deliberate pass, then resumes its orbit. The scene is recorded from multiple angles. Every course change, every hesitation, captured and logged. At 1800, the formation breaks. Not suddenly, not dramatically. One Iranian ship eases back, increasing the separation. The second follows seconds later. The third holds distance, no longer attempting to close the space. The box is open. The carrier has not fired a shot. It has not altered course. It has not raised its voice. But the moment has passed. The pressure has reversed. From here on, disengagement is no longer a choice. It is simply the only direction left. At 1810, the tension begins to drain away. The change is gradual. No abrupt turns, no signals of defeat, just distance, measured, deliberate, undeniable. The Iranian vessel that first slipped out of alignment reduces speed further, widening the gap by hundreds of meters. The second follows, easing away from its previous vector. The third remains nearby, but no longer presses forward. The box is gone. Inside the Combat Information Center, the displays confirm the change one by one. Spacing increases. Closest point of approach projections stretch outward. The tight geometry that held the carrier in place for hours slowly dissolves back into open water. On the bridge, nothing changes. The carrier keeps its course. No celebratory maneuver, no sudden acceleration, no turn to acknowledge the shift. At 1820, a radio transmission breaks the silence for the first time. It is brief, calm, and carefully worded. The Iranian voice does not accuse. It does not threaten. It offers no clear explanation either. The message is logged and acknowledged internally, but no reply is sent. At 1835, the Seahawk completes its final orbit. Its sensors continue recording until the last moment. Then the helicopter turns smoothly away from the formation and heads back toward the carrier. The rotor pitch never changes. The flight remains routine. At 1850, the helicopter settles onto the deck. The blades slow, engines wind down, no applause, no commentary, just another landing quietly entered into the day's operations log. At 1910, the Iranian ships continue to separate. One alters heading away from the carrier's path. Another drops farther behind the stern. The third keeps a parallel course at a safe distance, no longer shaping the space around the carrier. The sea opens again. At 1930, the projected closest point of approach moves beyond standard safety margins. Distance reports become less frequent. Inside the Combat Information Center, the rhythm returns to normal. At 2000, the carrier passes completely beyond the area where the encounter unfolded. The horizon ahead is clear. The wake behind the ship remains straight. The Iranian vessels are now simply contacts on the display, tracked, monitored, but no longer central to the situation. At 2030, the event is formally downgraded. Systems remain alert, but the posture relaxes. No new orders are issued. At 2100, the Iranian formation fully disperses. Each ship takes a different heading, none intersecting the carrier's route. There is no final hail, no closing statement. The encounter ends quietly. At 2130, the logs are completed. Timelines are precise. Datasets are archived. Every course adjustment, every signal emission, every second of pressure is preserved as record. Not as drama, but as documentation. At 2200, the carrier continues its transit exactly as planned hours earlier. Same speed, same heading, same mission, no shots fired, no hulls touched, no rules broken, but the outcome is unmistakable. 3 warships attempted to restrict one carrier through positioning and sustained pressure. In the end, they disengaged without achieving that objective. The carrier did not respond with force. It did not need to. This was not a contest of weapons. It was a test of discipline, and discipline held. The sea returns to quiet. The horizon clears once again. The carrier continues forward, unchanged, steady on course. And the message, delivered without a single round fired, travels farther than any missile ever could.